Hi, everyone. Thanks for joining. Today we have Axel with us. Hi, Axel. Thanks for
Hello.
joining.
Hello, Joy.
And you're with Cocolo Travel, right?
Yes, correct.
And I was excited to talk to you guys because you have a really interesting new initiative
Mm,
sending souvenir boxes from Japan. So we'll be talking all about that.
correct.
But before we start, do you want to just briefly introduce yourself?
Myself? Yeah,
Hmm.
sure. So my name is Axel. I was born and raised in the north of France, and I left the home country when I was 20, and then I started traveling. That's a long time ago now. And I arrived in Japan in 2008, and I haven't left since then. My wife is Japanese. I met her in New York because I lived in New York for about a year. And since then, I always worked in the travel related business. I worked for different companies, French speaking companies, because I'm French, but also English speaking companies as well. Some of them you might be familiar with. And eventually, I think it was about 5 or 6 years ago, my wife and I started our own business, our own travel company, geared towards French speaking market first. And then slowly but surely, we evolved into something a little bit bigger. We opened another business with a partner of mine. His name is Lukasz, and we operate photography workshops for mainly for tourists. So we don't operate them anymore these days, but we used to. Huh? It's called I Explore, and we are in 3 different locations: Kyoto, Tokyo, and Osaka. And the other business with my wife is called Cocolo Travel. So that's a travel business. So we operate business travel for all sorts of people, whether they are individuals or groups. And then because of the COVID-19 crisis, both of our businesses went like from here to there. That was pretty rough. We had to make some very tough decisions. And we also thought this could be a good opportunity to try something different. So people cannot come to Japan anymore. Why don't we bring Japan to them? That was kind of the idea. That was the concept that arose, and that's what we started with the PekoPekoBox. We called it Peko Peko, which means you might be aware of that in Japanese, like being hungry, onaka peko peko, because we were like under the impression that people were going to be hungry, not just for food, of course, but also for travel. You know, traveling, coming to Japan, this was something that was sort of taken away from them. We've had so many comments of people saying, "Oh, my trip got canceled. I couldn't travel to Japan," and so on and so forth. And this box, the Peko Peko box, is sort of bringing a little bit of joy in my life, feeling like I'm able to travel to Japan. So that's what we do now. That's mainly what we focus on. Yeah.
That's great. And
Mm,
we'll talk a bit more about the Peko box, of
mm,
course, a bit
mm,
later.
mm,
Let's start a bit with your travel philosophy because
mm.
this series and my passion is
Yeah.
also very focused on sustainability. So I'm
Yeah.
so excited to see a travel company which is really focused on slow travel.
Correct.
So let's talk about that philosophy a little bit. Can you introduce that to us?
Yes. So we, you know, I worked in the travel industry for quite a while, and I noticed something, which is that people lack time when they come to Japan and when they travel. And so they naturally gravitate around always the same sort of products uh, when they enjoy their holidays in Japan. And they tend to be packed with stuff. Bullet train here, bullet train there, 1 hour here to do this, 2 hours there to do that, 3 nights in Tokyo, 2 nights in Kyoto. It's like it's a race against the clock to pack as much as possible into usually 2 weeks. Now it's understandable. It's understandable when you come to Japan only once in your life. It's a once in a lifetime trip for the vast majority of the people. It is. So there's no, I don't disregard this, but that's what I've been doing for the vast majority of my career. So but I knew that there were repeaters, people who came a second time to Japan and wanted to have a different approach to how to enjoy the country. And they were already starting to, we were starting to see already other initiatives, like travel on foot, trekking in Japan, and so on and so forth. And that was pretty cool. But I thought I wanted to take it a little bit further and really sort of give time to people to appreciate the country. And it's a very difficult bet because, like I said, naturally people tend to gravitate around things that are fast. You know, when you're trying to sell something, you have to have the proper speech to convince people that taking it slow is actually a good thing for them. When when you read an actual menu of what you're going to be doing in Japan, it's always sounds more. It's better for sales to pack a lot. You know, people are like, "Oh, I'm going to do all that." Okay, great. But then the reality, because I've been there, I was a guide, so I guided people. So I realized, even though people thought that, oh, on paper this looks pretty cool, I really need to do all these things when I come to Japan. Truth is, the quality of the time that you were going to enjoy in Japan was reduced because your brain is overloaded with all these things, and you really don't have time. So the kind of products that we try to create for people are more like taking it easy, agritourism. I don't know if that's a word in English, agritourism. Staying in a farm for a couple of days, not necessarily farming, but like, enjoying your time, enjoying good food. We know a couple of places that are great for that. Taking the time to learn how to quickly drive in Japan. It's not that difficult, and there's a bit of convincing that needs to be done there too.
Yeah.
But once you have a car in Japan and you can really, for once, eventually, in the end, get off the beaten path, which is where the train doesn't go, then it's a real pleasure because you see something that you just cannot get anywhere else in the cities in Japan. Some sort of approach to life, which is much more like, I don't know, maybe I have these souvenirs from, these memories from when I was a child. A simple life. People have very simple lives once you get off the main roads of Japan. And it's kind of refreshing. Like for example, here in Tokyo, every time I want to organize something with someone, they got to look through their agenda and they tell me, okay, let's see each other next year on that day at that time. I'm like, man, it's just not possible, right? And in the villages, people just pop up. Let's have a coffee. Okay, let's have a coffee. Let's have a tea. Okay, let's have a tea. People just enjoy lives. We were, as you know, in Joge, in your region, and not long ago, and that's kind of how I felt. People just have I don't know if we can really say that, but a more slow, enjoyable, normal life, I would say. They don't rush through it. And we want to show that as much as possible. It takes a lot of convincing, because once again, it's difficult to sell to people when they only have a certain amount of time in their lives when they come to Japan. But once they are convinced, and once they go through it, and they enjoy the way we tell them to enjoy, they usually thank us because if we had not told them, they would have done the usual Tokyo, Kyoto, Hiroshima, Miyajima, Osaka in 1 week kind of thing.
It's crazy. I've said this many times in the series, but I think actually in terms of sustainable travel, coronavirus has been a good thing. Because it makes us spread out and it makes the rural areas so much more attractive, right? In terms of spending more time, having more meaningful travel.
Yeah, meaningful travel. That's a very important word on our website. I think it's great for people who are in Japan already. Our only concern as an inbound specialist is that people just are not even allowed to come to the country. So that's a different kind of predicament that we are in. But I believe that once the borders open, things are going to change. Now, I wouldn't bet on that. I'm not quite sure that what I'm saying right now is the absolute truth, of course. But I have a feeling that things are going to change. People are going to think twice before rushing through destinations the way they used to. Prices might go up as well. Some airlines are going to go through tough times, so they're going to have to cut on costs. They're going to have to raise the prices at some point in their history. So things might change, I see it with the hotels. It's kind of sad. We were working with a hotel. We had reservations with them for people who were supposed to come in November. Of course, borders are still not open. And we were in the process of canceling rooms when they called us, telling us, we're bankrupt, we're closing the hotel. It's kind of sad, you know, all these people going out of job and hotel closing. So as the offer will dwindle and the demand might not catch, you know, there's going to be a gap at some point, and I believe that prices might go up at some point in history, you know, especially with the Olympics. If the Olympics really go through, if they go through with the Olympics, prices might go up. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm showing your beautiful photos that you sent me in the rural areas. The beautiful traditional houses which you've
Yeah.
remodeled or worked with local people to
Yeah.
remodel, and then people
We
can
didn't
rent that
remodel
out.
them.
Oh, you didn't? Yeah,
No, no,
they're
no, no, no.
gorgeous, gorgeous
Yeah, yeah.
houses.
No, we just introduced them.
Yeah.
We helped them spread the word about what they do, but we didn't remodel them. This is this is a different job for different people.
Yeah, but
Yeah.
absolutely stunning photography as
Ah,
well.
I'm not responsible for this, and all the credit has to go to our main photographer, who's an amazing guy. His name is Lukasz Palka, and he's the guy that I do the I Explore business with. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
wonderful.
Wonderful photography. Yeah.
We had a nice comment from Wheel Women Cycling. She said, I could not agree more. Take time to immerse in real Japan
Mm,
means creation of repeat customers.
mm, mm. You know, it's the older you get, and the more you realize that the most important, the most valuable thing that you have in your life is time. And I wake up every morning, I look at my son, and I envy him because he has the luxury. He doesn't realize it. One day he will think like I think now, but he has the luxury to do just whatever he wants and waste time, so much time that he can waste. But now I'm reaching 40. And so time is like, oh my God. So now I have, a meeting with you, and it fills up and it's going crazy. So, I envy sometimes my customers who can take the luxury to take 2 weeks going off and about to Japan, to some rural places. Because now when I go there, I gotta work. It's my business to promote those locations.
Oh, but it's still enjoyable for you. I can see the love of travel in your company, in the things that the staff are enjoying doing, and
Yeah, yeah.
especially with your recent project with
Mm,
PekoPekoBox, which
mm,
we'll talk about next.
mm.
Tell me about Joge, because Joge is a really special place to you guys.
So Joge is the first place we went to. We got invited from to go to and create a box for them. Joge, I've known Joge through connections, previous businesses that I used to work with. They knew them, so I got invited by a lovely bunch of people. Their name is Kyushu Nomura. I don't know if you're aware of these people. They are some sort of NPO, and their business is to revive. They want to revive local communities and villages, and when I say villages, like mid-sized towns in Japan that are struggling because there aren't that many young people who want to stay in those areas, and that's really tough. Once the young people leave, it's very tough to keep the things going, right? And so their business is that. And one way that they do that, they have many different ways. And one way is to attract foreigners, because the foreign eye sort of sees values that young Japanese don't see anymore, because they were just born in it. So, like for me, a village in France gets very boring after 1 hour. But as a foreigner, French guy in Japan, I see the beauty in Joge that Japanese people mightn't see. And so that's how we got connected, like this. And they sort of invited us. And so the Joge, actually it was the Fuchushi local government, where they were interested in the project. And so they said, okay, come along. And so there was a lot of preparation work into selecting the right kind of objects that were going to go in the box. And then we went there, And it's like I haven't seen all the villages in Japan, but it's like one of those many villages that had a. You can see this in the photos that they have in the shiryokan, in the not museum, like something like a museum. They had back 50 years ago, 60 years ago, so much life, and there was so much going on. And now it's so, painfully empty. And it's at the same time it's a good thing because you really get a vibe that you wouldn't get anywhere else. But it's also a shame, and I think that we need to go there and at the beginning it's going to be tough because there isn't that much. They only opened a place where to spend the night very recently. I think it's only a couple of months ago that they started that, like a machiya type of stay, which is gorgeous, by the way. And
Is that what the inside photos that you've sent me? Is that the machiya inside?
so I cannot see the photos.
It looks like a beautiful renovated like beds, and the inside has been remodeled.
That's different.
Different place. Okay.
That's a different place. I can touch on that later. It's a kominka, so that's more like a farmhouse renovated.
Nice.
Maybe we have some photos. Maybe one of the photo that you have is a photo from the inside where we see very yellow because the sun was gushing through.
With like a rocking chair? You didn't remember.
I don't remember. I'm sorry.
Anyway, they have somewhere to stay. That's very positive because when I visited, I'm in Hiroshima, so it's not too far away from where I am. It's less than an hour's drive.
Correct.
And when I visited, it was like a beautiful ghost town, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody was around.
Yeah.
That museum place was open, and I went in and talked to them a little bit. But I'm so happy to hear that they're starting to welcome visitors and stuff. Of course, it's very difficult timing right now.
Yeah.
But it's a fabulous place to visit. And the town is very proud of preserving the outside, the beautiful outside building with the crisscross style. It's gorgeous. The
white walls of Joge. It's it's going to be difficult because there aren't that many. But there aren't that many foreigners coming to Japan, but there are non-Japanese people interested in going there that live in Japan, like yourself, like myself, and other expats or inpats, whatever you want to call them, who can benefit from one weekend away from the big cities. Yeah. And Joge is ideal for this because you're going to feel, what is the name of this thing? Robinson Crusoe?
Robinson Crusoe.
Crusoe, yeah. You're just going to be alone. You wake up in the morning and you have this beautifully renovated street just for yourself in the morning. In the afternoon, it tends to be cars and stuff, so it's not ghost town. But in the morning, you have the whole place for yourself, and it's such an enjoyment. So, before COVID-19, people were complaining about mass tourism. If this ever comes back, Joge is the place where you want to go to in order to avoid that. Yeah. Because that's for sure. Because of the infrastructure, the fact that they really only have one location where you can stay overnight, and it's I don't know if it's Kashkiri. I don't know if it's if they make it for one group only. It's highly probable that that's the case. Although it's big, I think there's like 3 rooms that are gigantic. So I don't know how they're going to go about this, but it's unlikely that anyone else will be there when you're going to be there. So it's a very special feel that you get.
Yeah. And when I visited as well, the people we did meet were so nice and so friendly and so welcoming to people to visit. So that, to me, I always, when I do consulting with destinations or businesses, I always say that. Don't worry about the English. You know, it's your kimochi, it's your feeling of welcoming people that anybody, no matter what their language is, they can understand that. And if you speak perfect English but you're not welcoming, that's so much worse.
It is.
Like it doesn't matter if you only speak Japanese but use gestures or use, Google Translate, but that kimochi, that feeling is so important. And I really felt that when I was in Joge. So it was a really special place.
But that's the thing, they have the time for that. Again, in bigger cities, people wouldn't have the time to, although I think in Japan they do, but not to the same extent as Joge. They have plenty of time to express their kimochi. And because they are not being inflicted with masterism like some parts of Kyoto, for example, are, which I understand. I understand locals. When you get the garbage, the noise, eventually you get sick of it.
Yeah.
But Joge will never get that, and they're always going to get, brackets again, quality tourism. I think so.
Yeah, because it
Good for
takes
them.
more effort to get there, right?
Correct.
That is the double-edged sword of the Shinkansen travel pass,
Yeah.
right? That
Yeah.
it's so wonderful because it's so easy to get around, but it's so horrible that it's so easy to get around, right?
Correct.
So,
Correct.
like in Hiroshima, we have people who come on the rail pass. They're staying in Osaka, they're staying in Kyoto. They come for maybe 2 hours to see just Peace Park
Sure.
and maybe half day to see
Yeah.
Peace Park and Miyajima. Why? This is
This
wrong,
half a
right?
day to do those two things,
Yeah.
like that is really insane.
Yeah.
That is really insane. Usually, when I used to do that with my groups, we were staying at least 2 nights, usually on Miyajima.
Good.
So we would spend one day, a day and a half in Hiroshima at the very least.
Yeah.
And even that's never enough to discover the city, right? Really, all you do is the Peace Park, and then after that we would go to Miyajima, which just on its own deserves at the very least one day.
Yeah, I think so. And I mean, I think this is another way coronavirus has been very helpful because it doesn't make sense to stay inside a train most of your day traveling around places and spending very little bit of time outside, right? It
Correct.
makes so much more sense to plan your trip, spend more time, research it so you really have more, like you said, meaningful travel. It's so important.
But that takes a lot of effort
Yeah.
educating people because, and I don't say that in a mean term. It's just that it's a very human sort of feeling that because you feel the fear of missing out. 2 weeks in Japan, I really want to see it all. I really want to see it all. I get it, but then eventually, like you said, you spend most of your time in trains. So yeah, you see it, but at 300 kilometers per hour. What sense does that make?
Yeah, well, that brings me to your next point that your company offers curated travel. So can you introduce that a little bit?
Well, that's just what I mentioned. It's
Yeah.
about educating, and it's hard because we live in a time when people want to buy now, click now. I know what I want more than you do. How can you know more than I want? How can you know? Because you've never been to Japan. I know Japan. Like I might not know you, but eventually, if we get to know each other, I will be able, to craft something for you that really matches you, and that goes along the lines of what we believe in. And yeah, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of education. It's a matter also of budget. Some people, whatever you say, it's money. Money is important. Time is money, and money is time. So it's a balance that people have to have in their lives.
But it seems like you guys are really focused on supporting the local area people, supporting the artisans, supporting the makers. So let's talk a bit about the people that you're working with PekoPekoBox as well as for your travel videos, because you're doing a travel series, right? Video series?
So, well, it's kind of PekoPekoBox and the video series is sort of the same thing.
Okay.
We don't just deliver a box full of stuff that we found and send it to people. There's got to be a story behind. There's got to be people behind. Otherwise, the value of the box is really not the same. You lose at least half of the value of the box. So, for example, let's take the example of Joge because it's the most recent example. It's not out yet. It's going to be out on November 1st. And the idea is that we've just spent 4 days there meeting the local people, although I knew them, some of them, most of them already. But we went there with a crew, and there's a whole bunch of interviews that we've done. We, documented the process of how they make those particular things that they make there. That's also a challenge because there are so many challenges because the box is a certain price, so we cannot go over a certain budget but sometimes some of the stuff that they make is very expensive because it's all handmade. So there are a lot of parameters that we have to take into consideration when making the box. So we choose carefully who we can and want to work with, as with the local people. And our main goal is really to have our customers, our people, our audience, our people to come with us and experience Japan the way we experience it as much as possible, even to an extent that they wouldn't be able to enjoy on their own, because all the preparation that went through this, even if you come as a tourist for 1 week in Joge, it would be very difficult to get access to some of the things that we got access to, right? And so, yeah, we want, and those people, for the most part, don't have the level of English. They're not really international. They wish they could. Some of them are very proud. For example, we met the sake brewery guy, and he only found out that we were French when we got there, and it turned out that he won some sort of a prize for #1 sake in France in 2012. So he was so, wow, okay, so you're from France. Well, look at this. I won a prize a couple of years ago. Okay, and so that, bridging the gap, connecting people that would otherwise have a very difficult time being connected. People on the other side of the planet, in the US, in the UK, in France, wherever that might be, in Australia, mostly we have Westerners, but we could have Asian people as well who can speak English. And then the local people in Japan who, for their case, have a very tough time reaching out, to abroad.
So how does it work? Can you explain it a bit?
So, how does it work for the customer side?
Yeah.
So they would need to subscribe. It's a subscriptions type of business. Every 2 months, we go out somewhere in Japan, and we record the omiyage, the souvenirs that we find. We record interviews with the local people who make them, the crafts people who make them. We document as much as possible the process that goes through the creation of these crafts. They could be food items that you can eat, or they can be like small collectible sort of items. Usually it's 50-50, but it could be actually less food than stuff, because there are already so many food stuff about Japan out there. So we want it to be a little bit more about collectible items. And it's easier to find, and it's easier to ship as well. And so people subscribe to this, and every 2 months we send them the box. And when they receive the box, they also get access to a fully edited series of videos of us going through what I just explained. So for Joge, after 4 days of recording everything in Joge, we have about 5 to 6 videos. Every time not every time, but almost every time, in a relationship with the items that are in the box. We also record sometimes things that we don't put in the box, but that we find extremely interesting. So for example, there was a Kagura show, a rehearsal actually. So we got access to this rehearsal, and then we could interview the people who were doing the Kagura, and we got access to the backstage. You may have seen it. There's a beautiful old theater that is refurbished. So we got access to all this. We got access to the story. So we thought, this is great. It's not in the box, but it's part of the story. So in order for people to really enjoy Joge, they need to know about this. So when people...
then people have like a secret access to a video online, is it?
Correct. So we use Vimeo, and it's plugged into our website. So when people are subscribed, they are part of the club. They can have access to all the videos that we're going to be producing. And so when we release the box and they receive the box, they get access to those videos. So it's a real travel in real life, because they have the objects, but also through the internet, because they can see the videos, right? And they can enjoy with us.
You also have, I'm looking at Kelly's review now, Kelly, on your website.
Mm.
and she is going through, it looks like a small magazine, which
Yeah, there's a
also introduce.
yeah, there's a small magazine inside. This was our first box, so it's very recent, and the concept will evolve over time. But yeah, there's a magazine explaining everything, but the magazine can never tell as much story as almost 1 hour of video online. So it's a very complete thing. It's a complete experience. What we're gonna start adding from now on, because we got interested in it after our first live stream, as you're doing, and as you might be aware, it's very fun. So next time, this will be for everybody. We're going to be recording live stream as much as possible when we go on location.
Nice.
Yeah, so we're gonna have a gimbal, a guy behind with a gimbal and with a phone, and they're gonna be recording, and probably they're gonna have like an iPad as well answering to people, so they can see us as we're going through the process of recording these things, which can be fun as well. And then when we're gonna have the interviews with the people, with the local people, we're gonna put the gimbal there so that people can still have access to this. So if they ask good questions, chances are in the video we'll keep it. We'll keep the video that they will keep the question that people asked, and then this will make it to the final cut. The videos that we
I love
release.
that about
Mm,
live stream, how you
mm,
can be so transparent, real time,
mm,
accountable,
mm,
interact,
mm.
engage with your loyal customers as well. Live stream is a wonderful way to introduce.
It's wonderful, but like in your particular case, it makes sense because it's an interview and it's easy to set up. For us, it's going to be a little bit more tricky, and it might not be the most interesting thing to watch. Uh, because we're going about, and then we are rehearsing and we're saying cut, action, okay, let's do that take again.
Yeah.
But actually it's fun as well.
But
Some people
people
might
like
enjoy it.
that.
Yeah,
They like that.
some people
And
might enjoy
because nobody can travel right now, it's kind of a wonderful virtual travel adventure with
it.
you
Correct.
guys. Yeah. I
Correct.
love it.
So that's the thing that we want to try for the next box. And my wife, who's with me on the business, also had an amazing idea. We realized that people, even though they know about the videos, when they get the box, they sort of they dig into it like a treasure trove, which is fine. I understand. It's pretty cool, all these things. But we have a feeling that once again, they don't take necessarily much time to appreciate. And sometimes, no offense again, but sometimes people need to be educated on how to do this. I'm going to tell you why I'm saying this. We watched a review of someone enjoying a box, not ours. I'm not going to say names, but it was funny to see it was disconnected, the miscommunication. They were enjoying Japanese snacks in a very Western mindset, and these snacks cannot be enjoyed the same way. It's not like just potato chips. There's a way of enjoying them. If you don't do it in the proper way, you're not going to get the full concept. We cannot send you a matcha set, and the thing, if you don't know how to properly do it, because otherwise you're going to miss the point of how to enjoy it. So we want to, ideally, I don't know if that's going to be possible, but we sort of want to wrap each and every item into just a paper bag with a number on it. Why do we want to try to do that? Is because people would have to go, first of all, it's going to be 8 unboxing. Let's say that there are 8 items. It's going to be 8 unboxing separately. So that's pretty cool. Everybody likes to open things and see what's inside, right? It's a cool feeling. But also, people will have to go through watching the video, or at least reading what's in the magazine before digging into it. Sometimes you just need that extra 5 minutes to understand fully what you're about to experience. This is something that usually I used to do as a guide in Japan live. So people would come to Japan. I've done that for like almost 10 years before starting my own business. So, you go the okonomiyaki in Hiroshima, right? People need to be told in advance about what it's going to be and why it's going to be taking so long and what's in it. If you just go there and you don't understand anything to the language and you don't get the point of how to enjoy that thing, you might not enjoy the same way. Okay, it's going to be a discovery, and if you enjoy it, wow, it's going to be great. But you always, I've realized this over the years. People usually leave Japan with more questions than answers, especially if they didn't get a guide to tell them. So without trying to be pedantic, we're trying to offer this, to people.
Yeah. And it's so important that people have the patience to go through with the explanation. I mean, I'm the kind of person who builds an IKEA table without looking at the directions. And
Guilty. Yeah. Guilty.
guilty.
Mm,
And I know a lot of people who would, you get this travel box from Japan. You're just
mm,
going to open it and try
mm,
everything, right?
mm, mm,
Without really thinking about it. But
mm,
you're right. Like having each one wrapped in paper with a number, they
mm.
have to watch a video, go through it together. That kind of added value of
Whether they're going to do it or not,
of
that's
learning.
another
Yeah.
question.
But then if they don't do it,
Mm.
then they blame themselves, right?
Yeah, not me,
Not you.
not us.
Because
We've
you
done our
told
job.
them to do it
We
by
told.
number.
Yeah,
You told them to watch the video. Yeah.
correct.
I love it. Wheel Woman says, this interview is a revelation, loving it, and love the creative thinking about diversifying a business. I've
Thanks.
been
Yeah.
watching reruns of NHK travel videos, but this sounds so much more immersive. Thank
Mm,
you.
mm, mm.
Yeah.
Yeah, talking about this, we had to do something, because our revenue went from, I don't remember what the numbers were, but it was pretty high, because people were coming to Japan, spending a lot of money on hotels. So we had a good revenue. And then it went to zero, literally zero, because our market vanished overnight. So I know other businesses, I don't know how they survive, but I talk to other business owners in the same industry, and they're all struggling a lot,
Yeah.
whether it's hotels or inbound travel agencies.
Well,
It's a lot of.
this is a fabulous way
Mm,
to keep virtual travel alive
mm,
and to support the local makers, support the local businesses,
mhm,
and to give people abroad a sense of travel just through taste
mm,
and learning about Japanese culture in kind of a new way. I
mm,
just love it. I think it's
mm.
so innovative, and yeah, I really hope it works
Yeah,
well.
I was going to say, actually, even people in Japan,
Yeah.
and that's more rare. I will say that 99.99% of our customer base is from outside of Japan. But we've had one Japanese person subscribing to the box. Now, he's the brother of my wife, so of course. But but he actually found it like we talked to him about the next box, Joge. Said, Joe what? They've never been there. So
Yeah.
it was equally interesting for him. To him it was very interesting to hear about this city somewhere in the middle of nowhere in Japan with all these interesting characters. So for them as
That's
well, yeah.
so true. But
Mm,
I mean, I grew up in Hawaii, and I took students to Hawaii years ago,
mm,
and they were studying at the university, and the kinds of things they discovered about my hometown,
mm,
and I was like, "What? Really? Okay, I want to go."
mm,
So
mm.
sometimes you need people to remind you from the
Yeah,
outside about the value of where you are.
yeah,
That's a
yeah,
wonderful thing.
yeah. We take it for granted.
Yeah,
So
for sure. Let's talk about the people that you're working with, because you
mm,
have so many fabulous collaborators, right? That
mm,
you're
mm,
working
mm,
with. You sent
mm,
me so many beautiful photos.
mm.
Can you introduce some of them?
Of course. So I'm gonna start with my wife, of course. You have to. She's a lovely Japanese lady that I met almost 15 years ago now, and she's with me in the business. And she's in charge, and probably, if you ever receive the box, you will realize she has the Japanese. She brings the real Japanese touch into this business. She she does a lot of the logistical things that require a tremendous amount of Japanese skills, but also she used to be a graphic designer before we moved back to Japan. So she's the one crafting everything. Like she thought about this idea of putting numbered paper things. She's the one thinking about how to wrap things. All these design details, she's the one in charge. Then we have Aline, who's working with us, young French girl, who's excellent at everything that has to do with being organized, excellent level of Japanese as well. And she is also excellent at doing something that we, older generation, tend to lag behind, which is social network. She is just like, she does things that I didn't know existed. You know, I feel like a grandfather. In stories, I don't know. Show me. So she's great. She's really great at this. And then we have Charles. Charles is a magician, so we never know if he's going to be there or not on set. You know, he's the star of the show sometimes. Sometimes he's not. He's got by far the best level of Japanese in the team, apart from my wife, of course, who's Japanese. And he has this sort of ease with words, with people, so he can really get up interviewee to, he can trigger emotions, which is very important when we want to have good footage. So yeah, he does that. He's also editing all the videos, which is a lot of work. So yeah, kudos for him. A lot of editing.
I think I'm showing right now a video he did in Kyoto with a tofu maker.
Yeah.
And also he talked to a Japanese archery shodo maker, right?
Yes.
Kyudo, sorry.
Kyudo.
Yeah, Kyudo.
That was pre-Peko, so it was still when we were trying to make videos in French and Japanese, of course, but in French for French clientele at Cocolo Travel. Yeah, he's just he has this talent in front of the camera, you know. It's just the way some people are, yeah. And then on and off, we have my other business partner, Lukasz, who comes, and he's the gear guy, you know. He knows how to get the shots that we need, and that's a relief, because sometimes it can get very tricky to know exactly the settings, the angles. You know, he's a wonderful photographer. He's worked for many different things, you know, featured in Nikon, Ricoh. So we started without him because we couldn't afford him, but then we got him along, and now after the Joge video, we realized, ooh, things went up a level, you know. We went from 2 DSLR Canons back from, I'm not gonna say 19 something, because that's not true, maybe 2000. I don't know. They were very old DSLRs, and we actually, thanks to his knowledge, we got a Blackmagic camera, which is a camera that is dedicated for video only. You know, maybe you can do photos, but it's really for videos, and it can do 4K. And then we have a drone, and then yeah, it's no comparison.
Awesome. I mean, his portraits, I'm assuming all the people portraits that you sent me is all from Joge. They're just gorgeous photos.
Right. And it's, you know, a good photographer is not just about knowing when to click not knowing how to click the button, the shutter release, but knowing how, when, and how to get people comfortable to such a level so that they give you this emotion, you know, how to, you know, deal with the light, the background. So the portraits are, I'm so proud of what we got. Yeah, I'm very proud of what we got.
So tell me a little bit about the products, because I see doll maker.
The doll maker was an expensive one. This guy is actually, we were not even aware of how famous he is in his industry before we got there. That's not in Joget, actually. That's a neighboring city called Miyoshi. And it's only once we got back here and my wife said, "What? You interviewed this guy?" And then she calls her mother, who's older, of course, and yeah, he's super famous in the doll industry, and he is. So we had no clue. We were so, you know, typical gaijin who doesn't understand anything. But we couldn't really afford to get anything from him because it's just too expensive to put in a box. However, if people are interested in buying things from him, we know we have his contacts. So, yeah, probably.
About how much is each doll? It looks like it's so beautifully made.
It would be very difficult for me to put a
Yeah.
price tag on it. I think he talked about it in the interview. So eventually, even though this is not part of Joge, we're still gonna put it in the Joge box. Eventually, all the videos that we make, not all, but almost all, they also get released much later into the public domain. So
Right.
people will be able to enjoy it in YouTube in like maybe something like 4 months time from now.
So you said you're doing it like a private link to Vimeo, is that right?
It's actually some sort of playlist which gets embedded on the website, and in order to have access to those pages with the playlist, you need to be a subscriber on our website. So that's pretty much the only prerequisite. After that, like I said, it's going to
Some people do Patreon, which is like an American version, but this Vimeo and your website subscription seems to be working for you.
Yeah, it works really well. First of all, Patreon takes a commission. Now you might argue that Vimeo will also cost money, but actually the level of professionalism that Vimeo can offer to us is way beyond what Patreon could offer to us. So,
well, Vimeo has the reputation for artists, for filmmakers, for people who love photography. So I think you already have an audience who expects quality, right?
Correct. I mean, our audience probably doesn't really expect quality, but it's just the way we've set up the whole thing and the level of quality that we want to attain at some point in our history. We know that we need that. Eventually, it's going to get downgraded when it goes to YouTube, right? Of course, and then you're going to get for sure some ads in the middle of that, unless you pay for the YouTube thing. But if you want to experience the full thing with the playlist and the box, you got to be subscribed on our website. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah. So for Joge, I couldn't bring back all the stuff because there was too much. We brought back some food, so I cannot open it because we need to keep it to take photos of this.
Yeah.
It's some sort of castella. It looks like a castella. It's a Yoshu keiki. There are some grandmothers making a manju. The story of this manju is that there's a snake you can see, and it's tsuchinoko. It's some sort of snake that nobody has ever seen, but people say that it exists in the surroundings of Joge. Some sort of apparently it really exists, but nobody has ever seen it. Okay, that's what they say, right?
Did you go to the Joge train station?
Yeah, we did. Not the Joge train station, the other one, Binyo.
Okay. Because
Binyo
the next time you go, the Joge train station has some local handcraft items, which is made by people with disabilities or from the old folks home. I found it really charming,
Yeah, we're going to get one of those. It's not really people with disabilities. It's older people who have plenty of time, and they're going to create for us. Yeah, this is the thing that I couldn't bring as well. Some sort of cup. So it's made out of bamboo, but then they stick leftovers of kimono, like scraps of kimono.
Yeah. Upcycling.
Yeah, wonderful item, all handmade. And actually, that here the problem is that in this particular box we couldn't, we have a problem, which is up to which level can we go until we lose our unique and handmade sort of feel.
Yeah.
Obviously, it takes a lot of time for these grandmothers to create those items. They're beautiful. It takes them maybe up to 30 minutes to create one of them. So we cannot have the level of production that other boxes can have when they put, I'm not going to cite brands, but like mass-produced snacks. Okay. So in the history of our business, at some point, we're going to have to take, we're going to have to think about a system that makes sense, both for us, for them, for everybody, for our customers, so that we are all happy without compromising on this, because this is a concern,
Yeah.
When it takes 30 minutes for Obachan to create the item, one of the items that goes into the box, it becomes a problem.
Yeah.
Um,
But this is always something for sustainability, right? Like you have to try to attract the right kind of customer
Correct. Yeah.
who will value the value of your products.
Correct. But there's always a price point, though.
Yeah.
So some people will appreciate it up to a certain level of price point. Some younger people who might not have the means of, more established adults.
Yeah.
Also, we get into more, specific problems that we have with our business model, which is to send packages outside of Japan. We ran into so many troubles with our first box.
I saw that. I mean, you're
Yeah.
putting like sake in some boxes. There must be.
No.
No, you don't?
No,
Okay.
we don't put sake in the boxes.
Yeah, I was like, sending sake abroad must be tricky, right?
No. That was one of the initial idea, and we quickly understood that this was not going to be feasible.
Yeah.
But beyond that, there's like, so you send the box, yeah, and these days with the corona, there are some countries that the Japan Post cannot send to, so we used another company, companies that force you to go through the customs, and there are plenty of things that we were not aware of. So we ended up having some of our boxes being overcharged by
Because
So
I took students to Australia, and I think that was where we found lots of strict rules about bringing omiyage in the suitcase. So anything that had dairy, nusehin, inside, they were like, you have to take that out. So, of course, shipping is the same problem, right?
Yeah, it's the same problem. So many different rules, so many different countries, all with their different rules. So yeah, it's not an easy thing.
Yeah.
Especially when we want the box to be different every time. If it was always the same products, it would be easier, right?
Yeah. One thing I love in Kelly's review video of the box, she loves how everything looks very hand selected. She mentions many times, right? Like this is not mass produced products.
No.
These things are very special. And I love how you guys are using mostly paper. There is some plastic for food wrapping and stuff, but you're obviously thinking about doing more paper wrapping or biodegradable wrapping. So it's wonderful to see.
It's our problem is that we're shipping boxes all the way to the other side of the planet, and that already has an impact just occupying space in airplanes, right? So we're trying as much as possible to minimize our impact on the environment. So one of the ways is to include as little plastic as possible. However, it's not always possible, especially for food, as you mentioned, for food things. So this, for example, the manju has to be inside of plastic because it's just the way things are done, and then it's got this this little thing inside to protect it from humidity. But the other things, like for example, we have these antique plates that we got from Joge.
Great.
Yeah, that's something that we're going to wrap, of course, in a different sort of packaging. Sometimes it could be, so this was not in Joge, but this was in the previous box. We have those Daruma-san.
Oh, I love the daruma. And you have such a nice video of visiting the daruma maker and everything.
Yeah.
That's available on your YouTube channel, right?
Eventually it will be. It is not now because as long as the box is still in people's hands, I would say for the 2 months until the next box, we keep it private so that only the people who have the box enjoy it.
Added value.
And after that, slowly but surely, drip campaign, we're going to put things out there. Yeah, and then I don't really have much. And then we have things that are more casual, like, for example, we visited that station where the station master and his wife have great coffee, and they have a restaurant and great noodles as well, udon. But they also have like Lucky Charms or Fuda.
Oh, nice.
So these are the things that, protect your house from, getting burnt down or something like this. So, you get to enjoy the story. This kind of item is the typical kind of item that can only be really fully enjoyed if you watch the video. The food, I get it. You know, if you have a bite and you enjoy the taste, you technically don't necessarily need to know how the thing is produced, although it's cool. But this thing, if you don't meet the station master, this cute Oji-san, who makes these, and then there's no real point. So you gotta enjoy the story to discover the people, to know what you are actually holding in your hands. And then all the other things, we have what is called a Neoibukuro, which is some sort of small sachet.
Good smelling sachet, right?
Correct. And this is made by Butsudan Yasan, so the guy who sells Butsudan, and he's a dandy. You know, he was really well dressed. He knows his stuff really well. Some of the Butsudan that he sells sell for 3 million yen and up, so it's super expensive stuff. You know. And his shumi, his passion is to create those sachets. And you know kampo yaku, the Chinese herbal medicines? Yeah.
Kampo medicine. Yeah. Herbal medicine.
Of course, this is all open for debate, but he says that it's got some properties, right? So if you want to, you know, this is good for that, this is good for this, and then you mix the different ingredients that all have a cool name, like dragon this, dragon brains, and so forth, and you create your own little sachet. And this smelly sachet, well, good smell, fragrance sachet, usually goes into the butsudan in order to give the butsudan a good smell. But for other people, it could be like inside of your wardrobe, and who knows where, right? In your car, you can hang it in your car.
For anybody who doesn't know, who's listening from abroad, butsudan is a kind of Japanese altar to pray to the ancestors, right? Which is usually kept inside the house.
Correct. So you'll get to know more about this if you subscribe to the box, because we have a whole interview about this guy making, well, he's not really making the butsudan, he's selling them, but he knows everything about them. So yeah, it's like all the spirits of your ancestors go into the butsudan that that you have in the house. Back in the day, the butsudan was created with the house. You know, I don't know if you know about this, but that's one of the reasons why it's sometimes quite difficult to buy houses in remote areas in Japan, because the owners, even though they don't want their house anymore, you know how Japanese people are with their superstitions and stuff. They are like, yeah, but the butsudan, so the ancestors are there, and the newcomers don't want to have the butsudan of a different family there. It's tricky, right?
Yeah.
But
there was the Fridale family who remodeled a 130-year-old house in the series. They kept the butsudan in the house.
Okay.
And they said that we love it. It's a kind of feature.
Yeah.
And we say hello, you know, we're very respectful.
Sure.
But I think for maybe foreigners it's easier because it's not your culture. But I could understand Japanese family. What? Yeah. I don't want, you know, somebody else's ancestor.
Family. Yeah, for sure. Sure. I mean, I can understand.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's funny that you say that, because I think it would be the same. Reverse would be the same. If I go in France and we have this superstition and another French family, the ancestors of another French family, I wouldn't want that. But because it's Japan, it's kind of, you know, kind of cool, kind of fun. Yeah, it's a different take on things.
So what language are you using? Because I noticed your YouTube channel is French, English, and Japanese, right?
Yeah, it's kind of tricky because PekoPeko channel has not launched yet, because we don't really release the things now until, you know, the box is passed. Cocolo Travel was all in French and Japanese when we talk to Japanese people. But starting from now on, it's all going to be English and Japanese with subtitles. We also keep French subtitles because we have a lot of French followers.
That's fantastic. Well, that's Go ahead. Go ahead.
We have. That I wanted to mention, which is you know, you were talking about the beautiful houses, and I think they should be mentioned. These are operated by Setouchi. Kominka renovation, blah, blah, blah. You're going to have to look it up on the internet. Setouchi Kominka, Comica. They invited us for one night there, and it's around this area. So it all can be done in the same area. It's more towards Shobara. It's a little bit more up north.
So Hiroshima area for anybody
Still,
outside. Yeah.
technically, it's still Hiroshima area. It's still Hiroshima Prefecture, and they have 3 amazing farmhouses, so well refurbished. It's just amazing. You got to look at their website. You can, it's not cheap, but it's it's a house with all the modern amenities, but at the same time it keeps this very old vibe of being a former farm, and around you, fields. You're in the middle, and at night, we were just relaxing on the rocking chair, looking at the stars. We could see all the stars really well. We could hear it was, the rice fields were still not cut, so it was there, and then all these little insects at night. It was just magical. They can also, so you get a house for yourself, so you got to cook your own meals. But I think that, and I did it once with them, they still have that on option. You can hire the services of a chef to come to cook for you. And that was pretty special. That comes at a budget, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, the guy comes, chops things. He's got everything, and he cooks for you in front of you.
That's
Pretty cool.
wonderful.
That was
Yeah.
wonderful.
Well, we have to leave it there, but thank you so much
Okay.
for sharing all your information. And I know it's such a difficult time for any travel-related business
Yeah.
right now. But I love what you're doing to support the local craftspeople and the local rural areas, as well as trying to continue your business, which is so meaningful and very sustainable travel focus. So thank you so much for all the work you're doing.
Thank you very much, Joy, for having us on the show.
Yeah. If you're interested, I'll put the links below to the YouTube channel, to the websites, to the Instagram. So please make sure you have a look at their information. And if you're interested, please subscribe to their subscription box from Japan. Wonderful idea. Thank you so much, everyone. Please join us again tomorrow morning at 9:30. We talk about bilingual education with Tiara, who runs Bilingual Kids YouTube channel. So please join us again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Take care, everyone. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.